All right. All right, cool. So I'm going to get started. So first of all, I want to apologize for sort of the technical difficulties that we were having. Let me introduce myself a little bit. I am Nick Keebaugh. I'm the creative officer and founder of a creative agency in Northville, Michigan called MammothReach, doing websites, strategy, videos, photography, all sorts of good stuff. So yeah, you guys are here a little bit on how to design a killer pitch deck. The purpose of this is, we're just going to sort of give you some practical applications, and then, sort of at the end, we're going to open it up for some QA. I can't see it, but in the right-hand corner, you guys should be able to box for questions. So let's switch over to that. And you guys can just enter in your questions if you have any, and I'd love to sort of answer those for you. So yeah, basically, I think there's some practical application to design, and I think the most important thing is sure that when you're doing your pitch, you guys are putting whatever is on your pitch, just making sure that it's polished and looks fantastic, so it makes you look good. All right. So sort of section 1, choosing a font. We're just gonna what types of fonts to not use, which leads us to our first slide, Comic Sans. I don't know if you guys can read it in the right-hand corner. Don't ever use Comic Sans. If it feels right, don't do it. It's a personal beef that I have, and most people in the design community have. Just don't do it. Next, on a more serious note, script fonts. I know it's always really tempting, when you're in PowerPoint trying to find the right font. Sometimes script fonts always seem to pop out at you. We always advise against it because simply because they're hard to read. We don't recommend it unless you are working with a designer and they're intentionally using scripted fonts. That's sort of the exception, but for the most part, just try to stay away from scripted fonts. Some practical font suggestions. You can't really ever go wrong with Helvetica, which is pretty much installed on most computers. Open Sans, which is a free font from Google. It's also the font that you guys are seeing on the screen right now. They have a lot of different font weights you can choose from. So it's just a nice, font. Arial, I'm sure you guys are all familiar with that, or Lato, which is also a Google font. I don't think it has as many font weights as Open Sans, but still a really good, clean font. So, when you're going into create your pitch deck, you guys are going to want to make sure that you guys don't get too crazy with fonts. Obviously, it's tempting to kind of draw attention and create certain points with different sort of fonts, but at the end of the day, too many fonts create confusion and inconsistency, and it just looks makes you guys look amateur. So rule of thumb, try to stick with 2 or 3 fonts. I would lean more toward the 2 font, and definitely stick with the same font family. And what I mean by font family is, once you install a font like Open Sans, there's different weights to the font. So like there's like light, and there's regular, and there's semi-bold and bold, and you can sort of choose the font's appearance by selecting the font weight. So yeah, that is sort of choosing your fonts. Next one, can you read me now? This is basically, the section is going to sort of cover readability and choosing colors and contrasts that make the text that you have really pop. The first one, it's simply selecting nice contrasting colors. You never want to go and pick, blue, like a dark blue, and put it on top of a light blue, or if you have a red, you always want to have colors that are really readable and contrast each other. The next one, we found this really awesome graphic that sort of symbolizes why you shouldn't use crazy background images. They're rarely helpful and create, they kind of hurt your eyes, and it makes text really hard to read, and it's just distracting from the bullets that you guys are putting out there. So graphic backgrounds, rarely helpful. Next one, logo backgrounds. So if you guys are, ahead of the game and have a logo created for your business, I highly advise against using, your logo as a background. Again, it just causes confusion and it makes things really hard to read. So yeah, rule of thumb, stay away from using your logo as a background. Obviously, there are some exceptions, but we're talking basics here. So no logo backgrounds. Next one. Can you read this? So this is sort of best case. Like, you can read this. It has nice contrast. Obviously, there's blinding clarity as to the point you're trying to make. And the point we're trying to make is asking you a simple question of, can you read this? You can. I think you would agree with that. Contrast suggestions. So if there's ever a time where you're like, hey, I have no idea if this is readable, one thing I like to do is print out the slide that may be in question and print it out in black and white. And if you have a hard time reading it in black and white, most likely there's not enough contrast, and it's going to be hard or difficult to read for the people viewing your pitch deck. Next section, size matters. Finding the right size for your fonts is really important. You don't want to ever be too small, and you don't ever want to be too large. So finding a nice balance is really important. If you guys can, I don't know if you guys are on full screen or not, but if you are, obviously, this example that you guys are seeing is much too small. I think this is at around 24 points. So I would say 40 points or less is going to wind up being too small. Obviously, this is going to be way too large. This comes in at about 150 points. So anything over 150 is going to be too large. A nice balance would be, maybe 100 for 100 point for titles, and like maybe 60 to 80 for more of the stuff. You always want to have a nice balance between or a ratio between headings and subheadings. I would say it's usually like 60 to 40. So if your titles are 60 point, you would want to kind of keep your other text at around 40 point. It just gives sort of a nice balance. How do I know? So how will you know if the people being able to, the people watching your pitch, how will they be able to read it? Simply step away from your computer, step across to the other side of the room, and if you can read it, they'll be able to read it. If there's someone else you can pull into it, maybe have them check it out. Obviously, you guys were the ones that wrote it, so it's always nice to get another set of eyes on it. Just step away from it, and if everyone can read it, then you'll be good. The next section, animations. And you can see that I don't really need to go any further with this, but I'm just going to go into it. Animations are distracting. They tend to slow things down. They just simply distract you from what's actually happening, and kind of make you look really cheesy. I got to get through all these animations, so I apologize. So yes, simply put, do not use animations. Yeah. The next section, and I think it's probably the most important, I'm calling it the Great Wall of Text. I actually went ahead and created a pitch deck of my own. It's a pizza. So I was like a bad pitch deck and kind of show you guys what to do. So most importantly, when you're doing your pitch deck, when you're designing it, you want to have, you want to be able to explain your points in as little and as few words as possible. Obviously, what is on the screen right now is a heinous example of a pitch deck. There's just way too many words. It's way too descriptive. No one would ever be able to read through all this and also listen to you talk. So yeah, it's as few words as possible. So what we did is we just went ahead and redesigned it in as little words as possible, and it brings us to this slide. So again, use key points. Your PowerPoint should not be your script. It should only bring attention to those key facts that you want to sort of get across to the people that you guys are pitching to. Next section, images are effective. Images, if you have them and you have access to them, are very effective tools. They tend to make what you guys are saying come to life a little bit more. I'm going to go to the first slide, which is never ever use clip art, which I think is kind of a no-brainer. But if you ever have the temptation to throw in some clip art, please. The next tip, try to do your best to stay away from stock imagery. Stock imagery tends to be really cheesy. It looks like it's stock imagery, and obviously there are some examples of there are times where it's necessary, but really be on guard to not use stock imagery. Next one, less is more. Try very hard to not use multiple images on a slide. Obviously, this is a really bad example, but I just wanted to kind of show you guys that it can kind of hurt the eyes. It takes away from what the focus is. So just really be on point. Just one image per slide is really important. Next one, use high resolution images. This one is kind of, this slide just simply shows like, I found this really low res image and I scaled it up. If you drag an image into your PowerPoint and it's really tiny and you have to enlarge it, it's probably low resolution and it's gonna look really pixelated. So I have no idea what this image is. Here's an example of a high resolution image, but the issue with this image is it's skewed. I was like, I want to be able to fit this whole image on the slide, so I just messed with the image proportions to get it to fit, but essentially what it's doing is it's making the image look really fat. So what we recommend doing is, centering the focus point of the image and just, it's always necessary that some parts of the image tend to get cropped, and that's okay. As long as the focus of your image is on screen, then go for it. Don't be afraid to crop it. Next section, color. Choosing the right color colors is a really important part of the design process. It kind of gives the feeling of what you're trying to get across. It kind of creates a tone subconsciously for the people checking you guys out. We're going to talk about the first thing. Try to use colors that complement each other. In this example right here, red and blue do not complement each other. They just kind of clash and they don't look very good together. So yeah, rule of thumb, use colors that complement each other. Next one, try to, again, create some control and don't use too many colors. It tends to make things look really noisy, and it's not something you ever want to do. You don't want to make your slides look noisy. So yeah, 3 to 4 colors max, obviously making sure that all of those colors complement each other. Again, we're going to pull some color. We did end up using like a lighter blue, but it complements the red. And we obviously used white text on top of both those colors to draw consistency. Again, we pulled the image to the left a little bit, so we're not putting text on top of the image. So yeah, just rule of thumb, when you're designing all these slides, just be sure that you're being consistent with your color palette. The last thing you want to do is like switch it up, in the middle of things and just create random assortment of slides. So yeah, so to sort of recap, fonts, 2 to 3 fonts maximum. Using the same font family always works. It's what I would recommend. Make sure that they're readable, and most importantly, no Comic Sans. Readability, contrasting colors is really important. You want to stay away from background images. You never want to use your logo for the background. And if you have any issues, simply print it in black and white. And if you can read it, then you should be good. If you can't, then you should probably fix something. Size. Ask yourself, can you read it from across the room? So you just simply step back from your computer a little bit. Can you read everything that's on screen? If you can, then you're probably in good shape. And just make sure that you're maintaining that balance between headings and subheadings. 60 points for the titles and 40 points for those subtitles. So just kind of keeping a nice balance between those. Imagery, definitely no clip art. Try to use 1 image per slide. Don't be afraid to use, multiple slides that are just simply images to kind of show what you're talking about. But yeah, 1 image per slide is always good. It really allows the person watching you to focus on what you're saying a little bit. Make sure you maintain the image proportions. Don't ever stretch or skew your image. It always makes things look really crazy. High resolution imagery is also very important. Again, if you drag the image onto the screen and it's tiny and you have to stretch it up, most likely it's low resolution and it's not going to look very good. And if you do use stock photos, please pay for them. Don't ever put a stock image on there that isn't paid for or has iStock photo watermarks all over it. Color, use complementary colors, 3 to 4 colors max, and keep your colors consistent on all slides. So this next section, we just sort of went through and put together some resources for you guys. And these resources are just kind of there to help you just make your slide better. The first one is color.adobe.com. It's a free website that just allows you to kind of explore some potential color palettes to kind of give you some inspiration. This is by no means, you know, these are all sort of user submitted, so like some of them might not be very good, but you know, use it as kind of a, you know, a reference if you ever get stuck. The next one is google.com/fonts. It has a lot of really great fonts. It also has a lot of pretty bad fonts. But again, if you sort of stick with those fonts that we listed, you guys should be in good shape. You know, by no means is that list any, you know, conclusive in any way of like the only fonts you should use. But if you're ever in question and you're like, I need some inspiration, those are some fonts that we definitely recommend. Some premium fonts, if you're looking to class it up a little bit more, typekit.com/fonts has a lot of really cool fonts. These are all premium fonts that you have to pay for, but you know, if you like it, go for it. If you guys really get stuck and you guys are just wanting to kind of use something as a starting block, the website graphicriver.net has a lot of premium presentation templates that you guys might be able to pull from. Again, it's user submitted, so anyone can kind of, you know, upload something and sell it. So you just kind of have to be vigilant a little bit. Rating, you know, if it's a higher rated template, then you have a pretty good chance of knowing that it's going to be a well-designed presentation. So definitely look at the ratings on that and also the sales. And yeah, I mean, typically templates run 15 to 20 bucks. The next one is slidescarnival.com. I actually just found this website this morning. And from what I could see, most of these are all free that you can just sort of use. So yeah, check that website out if you're looking for sort of a starting block. You can always go for more of a paid solution. Obviously, we kind of just discussed the slide templates and the resources. Those can cost you anywhere between $25 and $100. You could also consult a designer. Be warned that it's going to be anywhere from $100 to $500 if you're going to get any sort of extensive consulting from them. Or if you want to go the paid route and just kind of hand it off to a designer, definitely do that. But it's going to probably cost you $500 and up, depending on sort of what the scope is. So yeah, now we're going to open it up to Q&A. If for some reason you're having issues with the chat, you can always email me at nick@mammothreach.com. So yeah, I'm going to open it up if you guys have anything. Let me see. It's going to be tricky because I don't know how to get out of this. So we're going to go back to this beautiful desktop over here, and then I'm going to just.
We have some other people joining us, so there might be some questions.
All right.
There is a small Q&A kind of applet through Google Hangouts. So if you have any questions, please feel free to use it through there and post there, and Nick will answer. And if you're just joining us, please feel free to rewind back to about -49 minutes, and that's where we start. We will hope to edit that so you don't hear all of our talking and technical difficulties in the beginning. But if you have any questions for Nick, please feel free to email him at nick@mammothreach.com. And we'll open that up for questions. We'll stay online for probably, maybe 10, 15 more minutes, just muted.
Yep.
And go from there. But if you have any other questions or would like to, we are running this session again at 11:30 on October 20th. So please feel free, and thank you for joining us.